This is Red, White, and Bluegrass.
May 7th is an important date looming large for travelers across the country, with the nation's 2005 Real ID law is set to take effect. Kentucky Senate Transportation Chair Jimmy Higdon sent a letter to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem this week asking for a delay to the Real ID enforcement date. The letter, co-signed by 27 other GOP state senators, explains how the state has faced limited appointment availability and long wait times at regional driver's licensing offices. He says if implemented on May 7th, the requirement could add additional strain.
Kentucky's simply not ready. We have less than 40% of our licensed drivers that are Real ID compliant. If it goes into effect, we're going to see an equal and more severe problem at our airports when people show up to fly and they don't have a Real ID.
Governor Andy Beshear says he agrees a delay is needed. Both he and Higdon are encouraged that some relief is coming down the pipes when third parties like AAA can start issuing renewals in June when Senate Bill 43 takes effect, but a delay would help that alleviate strain on the system more. So Representative Moore, I want to start with you here. Just straight up, do you think this deadline will get moved again?
I hope it does, because there are so many Kentuckians that would be impacted. I did vote for Senate Bill 43 to give other third-party organizations the opportunity to help with the admission of those licenses. But it's a hope so and not a no so. But yeah, I'm leaning towards the optimistic side if I can. Representative
Dotson, you also agree with your Senate colleagues?
I do, but we have to understand this is a federal policy that is 20 years in the making. Kentucky being one of 17 that has got less than 50% compliancy, we can't move there directly with the way things are set up now. And just to be honest, a lot of that goes back to the executive branch. And what we've seen back during the pandemic is what we're seeing now, because during the pandemic, unemployment insurance lines were just outrageous. Getting folk taken care of on the insurance side, unemployment side, and now seeing that translate over under Real ID, we don't have processes in place.
You know, why was Real ID needed, if we can go back to, when all this was going down, and do you think it is still needed?
Well, it was a recommendation out of the 9/11 Commission, and I was actually the Homeland Security expert for Congressman Ed Whitfield at the time when that report came out. I think I read through it probably 3 or 4 times just to make sure I was pretty well versed on it. And so it does make sense that we want to make sure that we're ensuring the safety of our citizens, of our nation, by knowing exactly who is getting onto our airplanes, because we saw the activities of September 11th could result in mass casualties, a terrible event. So I don't have a problem with us going to that, and I do still think it's worthwhile to pursue, but we actually have to find a way that we do execute, that we do get those Real IDs into the hands of Kentuckians.
Right. And I think a lot of the non-compliant part of it is that most people do have passports, and some doesn't travel as much, and some people have a trepidation of thinking it's too much of a government overreach with Real ID. So I believe a lot of those factors play in why so many people aren't compliant in Kentucky.
Well, you mentioned some frustration at the executive branch over this. Y'all think that the legislature should look into returning to a clerk model and transition away from regional offices? We had a few bills about this session.
I truly do. I think it has become such a headache for us in Clark County, having to go to Madison County to get things taken care of. I think they should come back to the counties.
I would like that if we have an option for those regional centers to stay open late 1 day a week. Right now they close at 4 on every weekday. They're only open on Saturdays, 1 Saturday a month, and it's only in the morning. So whether that is 1 day a week of expanded hours, if we could do mobile clinics, if they're going to Clark County High School, and then they're allowing people to come in there 1 Saturday, and then you have a mobile clinic or operation that is able to travel to these kind of hubs in different counties.
I agree with that.
Now, I know that lawmakers from other states have at least written to the Homeland Security Secretary as well, but this is the first joint letter from state lawmakers that I'm at least aware of. So what do you take away from Kentucky being a leading voice on this?
I think it's good because Senator Higdon does a tremendous job, and he's very well and very astute when it concerns anything transportation. And so I think there's 28, if I'm not mistaken, senators that have written Kristi Noem in regards to this. So I think, and then with the governor coming alongside of him and agreeing with him, I just think it makes a strong case.
And us being a federal system, it's good for Kentucky to lead the way, especially if it's good ideas, like making sure that we have an opportunity for these Kentuckians to get Real IDs in their hands. So good for us, good for Senator Higdon for taking this step and taking this action.
About 30 seconds left here, y'all. If the date does not get moved, any concerns you all have about the implementation of Real ID?
I think we need to have an information campaign, make sure Kentuckians are aware of those dates. Also make sure they're aware that they could travel with a passport or passport card. So people may have an ID they could travel with and not be aware of it.
Anything you more want to add?
He and I agree on this issue.
All righty, y'all. It's nice to find some common ground with our lawmakers every now and then.